Rolling.
Cool.
Fucking rolling.
Yeah, I'm sending the articles over to my computer while we just shoot the shit here for a couple minutes.
Someone commented recently in a fit of condescending outrage that that Zero and Trey are not cousins.
Oh, really? They're not cousins.
Yeah, I mean,
you misled me on that one.
Well,
I'm relying on you for Zero.
Yeah.
Knowledge and lore.
Well, I was relying on his song, so I guess it wasn't correct. But either way, he got jumped and handled it like a champ. So, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, the first part of the video, you see he's just kind of curled up on the ground, but he was just trying not to take all that damage to the face.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Speaking of fights and damage to the face. Sorry to switch.
Oh yeah, Corey Sandhagen elbowed the guy.
Oh, that whole card though. Yeah.
Corey Sandhagen.
Did we talk about that?
We texted a little bit about it, but I actually didn't watch the card. It was playing in the background, and I was working on the computer. And I think that super exciting fight. I remember listening to it, and I was like, "Oh, I need a look."
The one right before that one, Cheaty and whatever his name is, Cheaty Bang Bang, he calls himself, up against I forget the other dude's name too. He goes by RoboCop because he looks like a RoboCop. Fuck off, Forbes. Yeah, I'm using an ad blocker, so.
All right, so I sent you this article.
But anyway.
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. I was just going to say, he got that you should go back and watch that fight. It looked like they were going to stop that one because the cut on that dude's head was so disgusting.
Oh, I saw it. I saw the post-fight interview.
It was so
right here,
gross,
right?
bruh.
It was right here, right?
Hold on, I'm not looking at the Zoom. Let me see. Yes.
Yeah, and it was like, yeah, that was nasty.
It was gross.
I didn't see the
fight. And he won. He's a savage.
Yeah.
Anyway, good fights.
Yeah, I should go back and watch it. I did see the cut. I thought it was pretty clever that Sandhagen, he doesn't have that power unless he lands something very clever like that flying knee right into Frank Yeager's face. But as far as just, like a few punches and a good combo, he's probably not going to do nothing with his hands.
But he'll slice.
And he found a way to win.
That skinny dude.
He found a way to win. That's what I'm saying.
You find a way. He's not super powerful,
It's hard to get a fight stopped from a cut intentionally, like to get the cut and then work that cut. It seemed like what he did to me.
Yeah, he said he was disappointed. Did you watch the post-fight interview? Like, he wasn't super happy with his performance and the way it stopped. But he said he did it intentionally. Like, hey, like,
yeah, but like,
it wasn't like he said this wasn't an accident. This wasn't a headbutt or something like that. Like
that's what I'm saying. Listen, Chael Sonnen breaks down Sandhagen, and he says that Sandhagen. These are Chael's words. Sandhagen is dumb when it comes to like understanding the business he's in. And he calls it Sandhagening when a guy has an opportunity on the microphone and totally blows it and doesn't.
Yeah.
All the time. And
definitely.
Then not calling for the title shot when he could have got it. And he was like, I don't care. There were some things, but it's this pattern. And that's what I saw. Whenever you cut a guy legally and the fight stops because he was so damaged, and when the ref does like this, Corey Sandhagen dropped to his knees and he did this. He went like this. He went like that. Do you see me? You see me?
Yeah.
He went.
Yeah, like I saw that. It was a very weak.
Exactly. He Sandhagen the moment. You won, dude. You elbowed him in the fucking face. He bled. The ref stopped because you damaged him so bad. So he Sandhagened himself again. That's what I'm trying to say.
Always.
Anyway. Yeah, that's about it for the fights. But moving on to these articles I sent you, because I hit reader view for this Patagonia article, and it turned into a different article. And that's the one I read, but it kept the Patagonia title. So I have a different article that I want to share, okay?
Okay.
So you take the Patagonia, and then I'll talk about this other crazy one.
Sure. Okay, yeah, so the Patagonia article actually kind of made me like this dude from Patagonia a bit more.
I thought it was brilliant marketing, dude. You know how many people are buying their stuff now? Come on. This guy's so full of shit.
Yeah, but did you read the article?
I started to. Honest, I didn't get through. I read the other article that
Yeah,
I
exactly. You're
didn't know
talking shit. You didn't read the fucking article, bro.
I read enough to know that this
You
is
didn't
all
read.
shit.
All right, dude. You always think everything is shit that you read. Anyway, Yvon Chouinard and his family, who made that a 10-figure fortune from Patagonia, relinquished ownership of the 49-year-old company, transferring it to trust and nonprofit organizations, and pledging Wednesday to redirect the future profits toward fighting climate change. As I dug into it, like, yeah, when you read that initially, like, kind of like, yeah, this could just be bullshit, just marketing scheme, get people to buy more of their shit. Yeah, they do put a bigger percentage towards climate change, but turns out that someone's pocketing it somewhere. Anyway, I thought that initially too, but basically the way they have it set up now is the shares are now owned by all of the company's non-voting shares, which 98% of them are owned by an organization called the Hold Fast Collective, a 501c4 that Patagonia says will use every dollar not reinvested in the company to support nature and biodiversity and to fight the environmental crisis.
So far, so good.
Right? The voting shares are now owned by Patagonia Purpose Trust, which is another new entity that the company says will enshrine Patagonia's purpose and values and demonstrate a for-profit business that capitalism can work for the planet. They predict that depending on the performance, the Hold Fast Collective could get paid out an annual dividend of $100 million, depending on how well Patagonia performs as a company. And so that $100 million can be, used in charity. But that organization hasn't specified how it plans on using it. He wrote in a letter, initially he was considering selling the company and donating all of the proceeds or even going public, but he decided to transfer ownership to keep the company's workers employed and maintain their values. So I think that was more of he probably could have made, if he was doing this out of pure greed, like this dude just wanted money, he could have just sold the company and said, fuck all the people that are working here right now. Like, I thought that was a good decision, thinking about it from like an employee standpoint,
Yeah.
Agreed. So far, so good to me, right?
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. So-and-so is going to be chief executive. We don't know him. Who gives a fuck? So they have a crucial quote that Chouinard says, hopefully this will influence a new form of capitalism that doesn't end up with a few rich people and a bunch of poor people. Okay, so far, so good. We're going to give away the maximum amount of money to people who are actively working to save this planet. He was worth $1.2 billion before he relinquished control of the company. He decided he wanted, this is the part that I liked, that made me like the dude a little bit. He decided to give up the company partly because the New York, Forbes listed him as a billionaire. He told the New York Times. His the inclusion of him on the list really pissed him off. He said, because he didn't have $1 billion in the bank. It was basically, $1 billion in shares of the company and shit, right? And he doesn't drive Lexuses. So he was worth $1.2 billion, but it wasn't liquid, So that was funny. So anyway, yeah. Overall, this dude, I just like that. What I like about it is this dude seems to be someone who practices what he preaches. Like, he was always about this environmentalist viewpoint. The company was founded back in 1973, right? So it's not like he's jumping on the bandwagon of the current grassroots movement of environmentalism, right?
Yeah.
During COVID-19, some of the facts they lay out is they paid employees during closures. That's cool.
True. Yeah.
Whenever Trump cut the corporate tax rate to like 20-something% down from 35%, they got an additional $10 million in profits. So they just took that money and used it towards what they believe in, which is fighting climate change, which is respectable. They even put an ad. This is the part I like the most, right?
And
in
let me just say
2011,
this is why I pulled this article, because right away I felt bad. He fucking threw away all his money because it's not fixing climate change.
No, for sure. It's probably
You know what
not
I mean? That's
doing
like,
shit.
it's like,
Probably
sorry.
not doing shit. But I just
He's a
like
good guy, but
I
wow.
like his values as a person,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, but
In 2011, they ran a Black Friday ad in the New York Times asking customers not to buy its products.
this is where I
and
called
to
bullshit.
instead reuse or repair the ones they already own.
Yeah,
Maybe,
hey,
but
you run an ad that says "Don't buy our stuff" during Black Friday. Come on, man.
I mean, but that is sure, that could be some reverse psychology shit going on, sure.
Yeah,
But
that's hilarious.
as a company, that's pretty ballsy of a move to make. As an ad to run on Black Friday. I mean, just working in that world, that's insane to me.
This could get its own South Park episode. The owner of $1 billion company who like is genuinely nice. And
yeah,
anyway,
I think that they practice what they preached here, and I don't see anything wrong. I can't unless
me neither. The only part was the ad they ran for Black Friday. I was like, why the fuck would you run an ad that says don't buy it? Like, that's a joke, you know?
Well, I'd have to see that. I'd have to see that what the ad look like. Click on the click through, see what the ad looks like.
Like hipsters that are like, don't buy our product, and they have this huge factory and they're making it all. Repair what you already have. All right, where's that?
I guess it's at the very bottom.
This
down one more last.
Oh, this one.
There you go. Maybe this is not the link to the ad. Oh well. Look at his wealth history. Go back up. He goes from 2021, how much it's worth, and then like tanks in 2022. I guess whenever he.
Well, it's only 0.6 billion.
Okay.
You know.
I thought that's where he gave his fortune away.
They sold a lot in 2021. I think that's when people were getting ready for the end of the world, so they bought all their survival gear. And they were like, "What?" They were like, "What survival gear has more Black Lives Matter logos on their website? That's who I'm gonna buy from." And they were pumping the Black Lives Matter logo on their website and all their ads, and they sold 600. They sold 600 million more in profit in 2021 because of anyway.
Yeah. Another interesting thing they did is they apparently pulled the logos off all their products because it was less environmentally friendly.
Because it reduces the lifespan of a garment, often by a lot, for trivial reasons. To have
so like shit like that, I think is cool because most companies don't. They want that churn rate, right, for their products.
I want a big logo on both sides. So.
Right, so it's free advertisement everywhere you walk around with a fucking product on, and it falls apart quicker.
Yeah.
Anyway,
all right.
Well, what was your article?
So when I hit reader view on that article, it turned into this article, but the title didn't change. It still said Patagonia founder. That's why I was studying this, and I was like, "Where's the Patagonia guy come into this story?" This story on Burn, but look at this, dude. This is from 2021, so we're a little late, but let's just catch up on it. Do you remember this happening? Former Overstock CEO Patrick Burns describes bluffing his way into Trump's White House. Okay, so this was after the election or something.
Okay.
What did he say? We had a vague plan regarding how we were going to get through all the rings of Capitol Police because he got into election fraud. Who was it? Sidney Powell, I think. He was talking to Sidney Powell. And basically, fuck, man. I'm not as good at presenting things as you are because it's just so bizarre.
Fine. So what? Just give me the short of it. What happened? How did he? What do they mean when they say he got bluffed into his White House? How did he get into Trump's White House? And
a
what
junior
capacity?
Assistant. They talked to her. He went with the crew. I think it was a couple of guys. We'll get to it.
So they talking about physically, like they went to the White House and snuck past security to get into the Oval Office.
So former Patrick Byrne, the former Overstock CEO, his dad, and we'll get into that. He's this thing. So he's spending all his time and money after he had a surgery from an accident. His friend sent him these election fraud information data stuff. His friend was like a tech hacker guy or something. So he got into it. So while he's in the hospital, he's like, we got to fucking do something.
So we're going to go give this personally to Trump in the White House.
Yeah, so he gets with attorney Sidney Powell. This was before Sidney Powell turned bad. And National Security Advisor Michael Flynn and attorney Emily Newman bluffed their way into the White House all the way into the Oval Office without an appointment. We had a vague plan regarding how we were going to get through all the rings of Capitol Police. They are not posted at the White House, the police. So Secret Service and Marines without any invitation. Sidney and Mike were the center of global attention, and we were going to try to use that to bullshit our way past them and get to the Oval Office, Byrne wrote. So on the night of Friday, December 18th, more than a month after the election had been declared for Joe Biden, and 4 days after the Electoral College met in every state to make it official, Burns, a small group, drove to the White House and tried to get to the president, offering ways for him to keep fighting for the presidency.
That is fucking insane.
Byrne wrote that when the guards saw and recognized Flynn, a former general, they came to sharp attention. Byrne said he himself had called ahead to a friendly White House aide who had promised to give him personal tour sometime, and he asked to come that night. I may have been less than clear that there would be some people with me. Burns said that as guards were confused about why the group had no appointment, Burns' friends arrived at the gate. The aide was momentarily shocked to see Flynn, but flashed his ID and said he would take the group inside, and he helped them get through security. Once inside, the group called other aides they knew and went to visit them in their offices, each a little closer to the Oval Office. From one, they saw Trump and then walked toward the president, greeting him as if he should be expecting them. President Trump's eyebrows knitted in puzzlement, but his face showed he's recognized us, and after a moment, he beckoned us in. Byrne wrote, within seconds, General Flynn, Sidney Powell, and I were all sitting in the Oval Office with Trump with the door shut behind us. So that happened, really.
What?
So they go on. I think I deleted it. I have the PDF where I can see. When I tried to find this article again later on, I had to find it in a different way. So the information I originally studied is now organized a little differently because I had to find it again. And Forbes has the paywall. So here we go. Here's my PDF that I'm used to. Okay. So it says, soon the four conspiracy theorists would argue loudly with White House attorneys brought into the meeting about whether their proposals to have troops seize ballots was legal or otherwise. So they were basically telling Trump about the Dominion voting system. Powell began the meeting with the same claim that now has her facing $1.3 billion in a defamation lawsuit, that Dominion voting systems had rigged their machines to flip votes from Trump to Biden. That was the thing I was talking about. And I think the Dems talked about it before, but yeah, that came from Sidney Powell, which was like Burns was the spirit behind all of it, the rich kid spirit behind all of it. She urged using National Guard troops to seize machines for evaluation.
Use federal force to track down this voter fraud.
She wanted to get the military.
Seems like a rational response.
Let's see. Access reports that Byrne, wearing jeans, a hoodie, and a neck gaiter, piped up with his own conspiracy. I know how this works. I bribed Hillary Clinton $18 million on behalf of the FBI for a sting operation. Byrne said in an interview with the Salt Lake Tribune that he brought it up later as his group was headed out of the White House. Access reported, Hirschman stared at the eccentric millionaire. What the hell are you talking about? Why would you say something like that? Byrne brought up the bizarre Clinton bribery claim several more times during the meeting, to the astonishment of White House lawyers. He got
Trump was perplexed with Byrne's statement, was also perplexed with the statement, but said, you guys are offering me nothing. These guys, at least they're giving me a chance. They're saying they have evidence. Why not try this? So he's like all on their fucking side. Like, let's try this. Oh, man. This is insane.
Yeah. So I guess the information about his history that was really interesting is in a different article I found after the fact. Sorry, but that all got
At the
confusing.
bottom, Byrne resigned as CEO of Overstock in 2019 after his stock dropped when he said he had a romantic relationship with alleged Russian spy Maria Butina while acting as an informant for the FBI and helping with probes. Oh, you just ruined it for me. I was reading it off your screen.
Yeah, I think the reader view takes away half the article, so I was trying to open it up.
And helping with probes in the... Well, keep scrolling away from it.
Where was it?
At the very bottom. Anyway, for people listening, this is probably a nightmare. And helping with probes into possible Russian interference in the 2016 campaign. So yeah, that's a pretty insane accusation as well.
Yeah, so all that election fraud stuff kind of came from this Overstock CEO kid.
Yes.
His dad
seems like he's a stable individual, and it seems like just like at Mar-a-Lago, Trump has excellent security, even in the fucking White House, where people can just fake their way into the Oval Office and lay out it is conspiracy theory, regardless of whether it's true or not, but lay out conspiracy theories to the president, who's like, oh yeah, well, this might actually work. Let's try this. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, and Mike Pompeo is running for president in 2024. I saw this as something where he's just going to siphon votes from Trump. What'd you think about that?
He definitely wants to siphon votes away from Trump. He's going to primary him, You
think he has any chance of winning, or is it obvious?
I don't know. It depends on how much the base, the Republican base, has kind of fallen away from Trump. I have no idea.
Do you know much about Pompeo? What's he known for mostly?
I know he was the Secretary of State for the Trump administration.
Okay, that's good. He said, unlike others, one thing Pompeo said was like, I'm not super famous, so I'm like an everyday person.
Like he mentioned, like going down the scene with Trump going down the escalator. He's like, well, if I go down, no one's going to notice. So in other words, I'm not in this for my ego is the point that he was trying to make. And he was speaking at a veterans event. Do you believe him? Oh, he's definitely full of shit. All of these people are everyone's full of shit whenever they're in politics. You're just full of shit as a person in general. And I find it hard to believe any of them. And Ginni Thomas, who I didn't know who this was, she's going to be interviewed about January 6th. Members of the panel said they were interested in speaking with Thomas, particularly after CNN first reported text messages she exchanged with then Trump White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows prior to January 6th about overturning the election. So she was one of those big players, and she's about to be interviewed. And man, they're going hard with all this stuff from every angle. Now that I think about it, I mean, think about it from like a strategy standpoint for the Democrats. Like, why wouldn't you go hard at all this stuff with it coming up to midterms right now? Yeah, you want to keep control. What's that? You said on the last episode we're gonna have a Twitter freak out party episode. Whenever this case gets resolved, coming up to the elections, like if Trump's January 6th, all these accusations. Yeah, or like like when all these things conclude. Yeah, we'll have a Twitter freak out party just to go through the insane comments. Yeah. Let's skip that Alex Jones article. What do you think? Because when I was reading it, it didn't turn into what I thought it was going to turn into. It was kind of like what we already know about the Sandy Hook trial. Yeah, I mean, he testified in it, but just to recap it real quick, we could just comment on it. We don't have to read the fucking thing. He was going back and forth with the other lawyer saying like, I'm not I've already apologized 100 times. I'm not apologizing anymore. And I forget what he said. He kept pointing and saying that these are real people. Like the attorney was telling Jones about the parents of the victims. And Jones is like, yeah, just like all the Iraqis you liberals killed and love. just you're unbelievable. You switch on emotions on and off when you want. You're just ambulance chasing. So he's going off about this in the courtroom, in front of the parents. Wow. And the exchange goes on, and then if he, the other attorney's like, well, they lost children, sisters, wives, and moms. And Jones is like, is this a struggle session? Are we in China? I've already said I'm sorry hundreds of times, and I'm done saying I'm sorry.
Wow.
He went off at him. So anyway, I just wanted to comment on that. That was
yeah, that's amazing,
incredible.
I think of Robbie Martin in their episode Media Roots recently about that a multiple part episode on how Alex Jones has been controlled opposition since the beginning. And he said after 9/11, the actual journalist original truth world that knew something was going on with 9/11, like the Abby Martins of the world, they didn't have any media that was talking about what the real people knew about. Like, it wasn't a thing yet, and 9/11 sparked it off.
There wasn't alternative media sources like we have today, where it's decentralized on the internet. As back then you had ABC, CBS, CNN, Fox, like those were your main media outlets, and they were going to just tell you the main narrative. They had
independent media, but they didn't have as many of them that was talking about what was the big deal. So 9/11 was a big deal, but just nobody was talking about it. Alex Jones was one of the first ones talking about it, and he got the attention of that world first. That's where he blew up, was in like the actual true journalism world and people that were in the actual vein of truth, so to speak. So Robbie Martin knew right away something was off with him, because he would go to his website, because they were listeners of Alex Jones, basically, back in the day. He wasn't always this radical character. But he noticed right away on his website there was an article about like American soldiers frozen in freezers in Afghanistan or something. Like 5,000 soldiers in Bagram, or whatever the city name is. And it was so absurd. He said this article headline was so absurd, there's no way it's true. Like, where are all these 5,000 families? They're not speaking up right now. 5,000 soldiers that never came home, and they're so from the beginning, Robbie Martin knew he was intentionally, and he went on to break down a whole timeline of Alex Jones's intentional misinformation. It was a thing Alex Jones always did in the midst of reporting on the real veins of truth. And I didn't know.
Think he's controlled opposition?
That's what Robbie Martin's saying. But this Sandy Hook thing is the modern, recent, current huge explosion. And I think Alex Jones in all of this has had to reconcile with the fact that what he's always done. This was another one. This wasn't the first intentional misinformation coming from Alex Jones. Saying this goes back to right after 9/11, when the Iraq War started. He was throwing these little intentional.
So you think the CIA is pulling strings on Alex Jones?
That's not what I'm getting at. What I'm getting at is this is this Sandy Hook trial, and he's admitting he's wrong. He came out and said I was wrong. He's never done it for anything else, but this one was like too far. This is like a pattern that goes.
Oh, so you think that he was just intentionally?
He's always been intentionally putting on misinformation.
For what gain for himself?
I don't know. That's the whole question. But he's always done it. Robbie Martin pointed it out. So that's what I think of when the Sandy Hook trial, and whenever he admits that he's wrong, I'm like, it's another. This one just went too far. And
I guess so.
I don't think that made any sense, but
it made a little sense. I just don't get why he would. Like, for what purpose he would. I mean, if he's not in bed with the government, is what I'm saying. Like, why would he be? That's the answer to the question. Is he's in bed with the government?
He's controlled opposition.
Right. I get what. Then that's what I meant. Like, what controlled opposition means. I understand that, but like, I I don't know.
I'm only saying Sandy Hook is not the first time he did this. Robbie Martin points out that this goes back to whenever he broke out on the scene talking about 9/11.
Well, my thought is like, if he's in bed with the government, why would he be in trial right now? Like in multiple trials, getting, facing charges or fines with this shit. If the government were the ones pulling the strings on this, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I mean, why would he intentionally put out ridiculous information like that in the midst of a lot of true things that he's?
Or he could just be a fucking crazy person who gets some things right and then also makes up some shit as well.
Well, there was a cult-like following that Robbie and them were talking about whenever he did break out, was that everybody they knew, all their close friends that were like truthers at that time, which is a different thing than what it's considered now. But truther at the time. So there was this, how do I say it? They would all say, oh, Alex Jones, he's right about everything. Oh, we believe everything he says. Like it was like this really zealot thing that took over.
Yeah.
Reasonable people, their friends, reasonable people. At that time when Alex Jones broke out, it was like a cult movement in the real smart crowd. And then over time, it turned into this.
I could see why that would be the case, because
that's an interesting part I never knew about Alex Jones, that he tapped into the real in the beginning. And also did Sandy Hook type shit in the beginning. It's just it wasn't until Sandy Hook that it blew up in his face.
Right.
There's never anything else he had to come out and be like, I was wrong. He embraces all of it. But this one got to a point where he's like, okay, I was wrong. And I don't know what the plan would be if he's controlled opposition, but I mean...
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to see the angle from the government side of things, especially right now. They're like, all right, we're fucking done with you, so we're going to crucify you.
Well, let's think about COINTELPRO. This is my answer to that. COINTELPRO works like this, where you take extreme examples and you use it to smear the real movement, or you infiltrate it. So Alex Jones gets into the actual truth movement, but then he smears it by putting out ridiculous things that make it all look bad. So yeah, Sandy Hook, let's say Sandy Hook was a false flag, but people did die and they weren't crisis actors. Maybe it was a CIA MK Ultra thing where they set up a mass shooting so they could have more reasons to take away our guns and implement global control. Maybe he's playing the other side to help make it all so unbelievable that people don't pay attention. Like the shooting happened. And
okay, I can see guns. That being a reason to have someone like crazy like Alex Jones on the scene. Yeah, it makes
COINTELPRO is basically what I'm getting at.
Yeah. Okay, so, I can see that.
Yeah. But what does he get out of it? I mean, he doesn't seem to give a shit, so maybe...
He's going hard in the courtroom.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, so interesting.
Let me make a new session and we can finish up these other ones.
Let me go feed Lillian and then
okay.
I'll jump back on. It should be like 5-10 minutes maybe.
Okay.
All right. Fucking Deborah.
Yeah. Yeah, so all right. What's next? I saw this article by J. Bradford DeLong. It said, why all the inflation worries?
I was hoping it's so good. You take the lead on this one, because
this was confusing as shit.
Well, God damn it, Dylan. Don't make me do this, because you sent me this article. I'm like, oh, this is some like real economics talk. Like, I'm too stupid to really understand this deeply. So I was hoping you would take the lead and break it down for us.
Yeah, as best as I can. So he said, some respected economists are talking as if the U.S. economy is in serious inflationary trouble, but the current uptick in price growth is highly likely to be a largely benign consequence of the post-pandemic recovery. This guy goes on to say, can you screen share while I do this?
Sure.
Just screen share the article or whatever. Keep that screen active. I was attracted to this article because I was like, no way is this guy trying to say that what's happening right now with inflation is like a good thing. He goes on to say that he talks about the employment cost index and says that real wages are currently 4% below their warranted value from adding on the underlying fundamental productivity trend to the pre-pandemic real wage employment cost index level. I don't know what that means, but he says like the cost of having employees kind of stayed the same. So the economy kind of floated in the right range. And then he moves on to say, those who believe that the U.S. market is in some sense tight point out that the ECI increased by 3.7% in the year to September, well above its 3% annual growth rate in the pre-pandemic years of former U.S. President Donald Trump's administration. So he's saying that
the cost to employ someone increased by 3.7% this year, which is higher than 3%. That's how I think I kind of understood it. But I might not have a good grasp of the employment cost index.
This is rough. Yeah, me neither.
Metric is referring to.
But this is where I felt like he started doing mental gymnastics a little bit. He said, but because the U.S. consumer prices have increased by 5.4% over the past year, the ECI basis real wage has fallen by 1.7% in that period. Even though it went up by 3.7%, the consumer prices, the inflation, offset it, so it's actually dropped. So it's actually a good thing because we dropped that wage you were just talking about.
Real wage, which is wages adjusted for inflation.
Yeah, so it's like it actually costs less to employ people because things cost so much. I think that's what he's trying to say. He says, now casting is extremely difficult and hazardous, but the now that I see today is the one I forecasted 2 to 3 quarters ago. Yes, the recovering U.S. economy, like a driver who suddenly accelerates, is leaving inflationary skid marks on the asphalt. But as I argued in May, these should not concern us because burning rubber to rejoin highway traffic is not the same thing as overheating the engine. And he goes into Biden's plan that he signed, how that is
a good thing.
Yeah, it's a good thing because that's the pushing the gas to the pedal to the metal to catch up with the highway. Like we're throwing money into the economy to get it going again because it kind of stopped. I think that's what he's getting at. Let me find myself. Economists whom I respect talk as if the economy is in serious inflationary trouble. Jason Furman, a former chairman of President Barack Obama's Council of Economic Advisors, thinks the original sin was an oversized American rescue plan. So Barack Obama's Council of Economic Advisors thinks that Biden's rescue plan is the reason inflation's happening and we're kind of fucked. And this guy's saying, no, it's the solution. It's a good thing. The $1.9 trillion recovery package that President Joe Biden signed into law in March is the original sin. In Furman's view, it would have been better to have less aggressive policy measures and thus a slower employment and growth recovery this year. Because Biden's plan contributed to higher output but also higher prices. And according to the same New York Times report, former U.S. Treasury Secretary Larry Summers thinks that inflation now risks spiraling out of control. So there's a dynamic happening here, and I think he's about to get into it.
Inflation warriors then argue that the COVID-19 crisis has permanently damaged the supply side of the economy by causing a lot of early retirements as well as lasting disruption to the lean and mean supply chains on which a good deal of productivity and prosperity had depended, which we talked about that in the supply chain issue a couple episodes back with the shipping crisis we're seeing right now. Well, we were seeing whenever we saw those shipping containers stuck out at the sea. You know what I'm saying? You remember that? Mm-hmm. Anyway, find your place.
Said, whenever you have a lot of money chasing few goods, a lot of money chasing too few goods, you have this shortage of labor and you have this overactive market. So you have all this money, you have no labor, and then it spirals out of control from there. So he said that's a situation that happened after the 2008 financial crisis in 2010. And he has it right here. But similar arguments in the early 2010s in the aftermath of the 2008 global financial crisis aimed to justify policies that did not put the pedal to the metal and attempt rapidly to reemploy so-called zero marginal product workers. So he's saying in the 2010s after the market, they did not want to do what Biden just did. One consequence of this timidity was the election of Trump. Okay? One consequence of not doing what Biden just did. If Biden doesn't do what we just did, we're going to get another Trump because it happened at 2010. We didn't do that, so we got Trump, whose rise was fueled by the rage of those who thought elites cared more about immigrants and minorities than they did about blue-collar workers whose economic opportunities had never recovered to pre-2008 levels. That's crazy. That's crazy. There's so much packed in right there. The people who voted for Trump were people who thought the elites cared more about immigrants and minorities than blue-collar workers. That's.
I mean, it's kind of true to a degree, right? Like he went after that voter base.
Well,
he's essentially saying that those in power, the elites. I mean, that's definitely what Trump was when he was in that first campaign run in 2016. That's definitely what he. Right. That's not the main thing he ran on, but he definitely pointed that, like, hey, look, the Democrats are more worried about giving immigrants and minorities voting rights or whatever the fuck than they care about, getting you your jobs back, right? He definitely ran on that in the Rust Belt and all those types of places.
Yeah.
So
I'm having trouble remembering what that struck in my mind earlier, but I felt like it kind of whitewashed it because what happened in 2008 was like a intentional thing that Wall Street did. And then Barack Obama gave the banks bailout money that should have went to the people who lost all their homes. Like 5.1 million people lost their homes, and all that money went to the banks. The banks got double. So it was actually a very politic Wall Street contrived thing that fucked people. So for this guy to say that the way that was handled led us to Trump because we didn't pump money into the market and then he turned it into like this partisan thing. I don't know this. It's hard for me to wrap my head around, but I was starting to see this guy kind of turn it into a partisan issue because Trump or no Trump, Obama fucked the whole country with Wall Street after 2008.
One thing, maybe you could help me understand.
And that's not why we got Trump,
that sentence, but like it says, perhaps similar arguments in the early 2010s in the aftermath of 2008 global financial crisis, which I know you just read this. I'm just reading again so that I can understand it. In the aftermath of the 2008 global financial crisis, aimed to justify policies that did not put the pedal to the metal and attempt to rapidly reemploy so-called zero marginal product workers. What are zero marginal product workers?
I don't know, man. Part of this is me trying to understand this article. It's very challenging because it's kind of economically advanced for me. But this guy is basically laying out an argument that inflation is a good thing right now because what we're doing now is what we did not do in 2010, and that led us to Trump and all these right-wingers who didn't learn to code. That's what I'm trying to get. That's what
I guess. Yeah, that's all definitely
these
what he's saying.
Right-wingers that didn't learn to code voted for Trump because fucking it's like none of that has anything to do with anything. So why he's putting it in here? But some people say that Biden's stimulus package is the reason we're in inflation, and this guy's saying it's the solution. I don't know what to think. I just know that there's a lot to learn about economics before I actually talk like I know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's why I was like, I don't know if I want to cover this article. I
wanted to cover it because it's so advanced. That's what we're here to do, man. We're here to do the reading and talk about it. We don't have to be right.
Yeah,
we read that thing. I tried and we talked about it. This guy says inflation's good. What do y'all think?
Well, he's saying that inflation is not. So, like this sentence kind of breaks down what he feels. So far, rising inflation has not been incorporated into any of the sticky prices in the economy. according to the measure constructed by the Atlanta Federal Reserve. True, the financial market's current 30-year break-even inflation rate at 2.35% is more than half a percentage point above where it settled in the second half of the 2010s. But today's rate is similar to that in the first half of the decade and slightly below the level that would be consistent with the U.S. Federal Reserve's inflation target of 2% per year. So you're saying that we're still below the 2% per year target of inflation that the U.S. Federal Reserve is anticipating, from what I understand with that.
Yeah. Well,
current uptick in U.S. inflation is likely simply rubber on the road resulting from the post-pandemic recovery. There's no sign that inflation expectations have become de-anchored. The labor market is still weak enough that workers are unable to demand substantial increases in real wages. In other words, workers are not able to, the market's not at the point where workers can go into their jobs and be like, hey, you have to give me a fucking raise or I can't survive right now, right? Financial markets are blasé about the possibility of rising inflation. I guess he's implying that the stock market hasn't completely imploded, which it kind of has, and a substantial fiscal contraction is already in train. When was this article written? Okay, so the problem with this article is this motherfucker wrote this in 2021. So, yeah, he's wrong.
All right. Well, I'm ready to move on from that one because that was complicated as shit.
It was complicated, but hey, we learned a little bit there. We learned what real wages were at the ECI.
And we proved to the people we're not afraid to step up to the challenge.
We tried. We failed. It's okay.
Let's talk about Shaun King's shadowy $6.7 million nonprofit grassroots law project formed after George Floyd's death. We just talked about Brett Favre, and we got our channel taken down for a week for a Fauci video where we talked about his history with AIDS. I don't want them to take this one down. Seriously, dude, they fucking transcribed our conversation because I changed the title twice. So they transcribed the conversation and was like, no, not talking about that. But on that one, we talked about Brett Favre.
I don't understand. Whatever.
Yeah, me neither, man.
I don't understand how that violated community guidelines. Whatever.
Yeah, well. So Brett Favre was taking some TAMP money, though. We talked about that. Now Shaun King's in something. Shaun King's nonprofit amassed millions of dollars in donations in the month following the 2020 murder of Floyd, while its signature project to review and redress prosecutorial injustices in 3 major U.S. cities floundered, while King and himself and his associates raked in hundreds of thousands. Chesa Boudin and then Boston DA Rachel Rollins. It was built to oppress them, and moving forward, we must build brand new pathways for truth, justice, and reconciliation. That's what they said about the system. They were given a speech talking about their new nonprofit. But more than 2 years on, the commission's online pages appear largely stagnant, much like the initiative itself. So they took in all this money. The single largest expenditure the Grassroots Law Project made in its first year was $2.6 million, which the disclosures only state went to bridge the gap between grassroots organizing and legal expertise to reform the American justice system. So there's like a lot of moving of money, and they didn't want to give up information at all, which they're supposed to. And they didn't. So there's a lot of shadiness going on in here, and nothing ever happened either.
Yeah, they had these 3 commissions in these 3 cities that were supposed to launch. I think in 2 of the cities they never even had a single meeting.
Yeah,
one of the and they're given, and that was like $500,000 that went into that initiative for those committees that didn't do a fucking thing. So I think it's the more we find articles like this, the more I realize that these charities and nonprofits are fucking cover-ups for moving money around.
Or just getting money. People give you money and you don't have to spend it on anything.
You don't.
No one ever follows up.
Well, apparently people do, because people were following up on, there's they talk about Documented, I think is the name of the nonprofit investigative firm. Someone followed up on the shit. Let's see.
The Boston District Attorney's Office told the Daily Beast that its commission unfortunately did not get off the ground, while the San Francisco DA's office said its committee had yet to hold a single meeting. Philadelphia DA Larry Krasner, whose exceedingly close political ties to King and one of his PACs have gotten him slapped with thousands of dollars in campaign finance violation fees. He did not respond to questions about the commission's status that were left with his office on his personal cell phone. In a statement to the Daily Beast, the Grassroots Law Project's representatives blamed the distractions of Krasner's re-election bid and Philadelphia's recent crime wave for the apparent failure to make headway on the project. He is today the only one of the original trio of prosecutors still in office. I wonder if the other two made off with their money, or if they were like, I gotta step down because we're busted.
Probably made off with their money. So, like, we got a couple 100,000. We're scheming in other areas. It's all good.
They also said that the COVID-19 pandemic was partly to blame for all three commissions' failure to launch. They got all this money and then blamed it on the pandemic.
They took credit for Derek Chauvin getting arrested and charged and convicted for murdering George Floyd.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, that's what this article says.
Oh, yeah, it was because of us that he went to trial or something?
Like, yeah, they took credit for having helped ensure that Officer Derek Chauvin was arrested, charged, and convicted.
Yeah, it's so vague. Like, it didn't help.
Sure.
We don't need a nonprofit for a murderer to go to court. Like, it just happens. It's
we saw that on video. I don't know that you necessarily, whatever.
They said the initiative only accounted for around $500,000 of the $2.6 million figure. The remainder, they indicated, went toward various policy pushes and campaigns for prosecutorial leniency, phone banking, donations to other groups, and legal defense funds. So another welfare fraud, another charity fraud.
Yeah. They say that they paid King $104,000 in 2020. But the group's representatives told the Daily Beast his compensation has gone up to $250,000 a year, or twice the median compensation for nonprofit executives. So that's fun.
Yeah, so be careful of these charities. Whenever you round up at the grocery store to the nearest dollar at Petco to save a dog, think twice. Think twice.
They also show that they paid a nonprofit. The nonprofit paid $135,486 to the Social Practice, a consulting firm that handles the group's financials and which is based out of a box in the San Francisco mail drop as the Grassroots Law Project itself. So they pay a consulting firm that's supposed to help them with their financials, and it's just them. They're just paying themselves for it because it's the same mail drop. That's crazy. They're definitely scheming. They're definitely scheming.
So let's talk about this long COVID article.
This one made me sad. This article made me sad.
Yeah, sorry, man. But I'm going to skip over kind of the first part because it's basically a girl here in Colorado and Denver that has had long COVID. Has long COVID since 2020. It's now 2022. She's 18 in high school. She's got all soaring heart rate, fatigue, brain fog, stomach not working properly, feeding her with the tube, infection, marks on her body. Like, it's not good. Nothing is working. Nothing's working. Nothing's working. Nothing is working. Okay. So the article goes on.
Terrible.
The article goes on to say, Lily also had ulcers in her stomach that sometimes appear, although it's unclear if they are directly related to the ulcers that cover Lily's body within days of her infection in 2020. She had multiple episodes of gastrointestinal bleeding in the past 8 or 9 months and needed a blood transfusion. So Lily is unable to eat because of her symptoms, so she has to get nutrients such as proteins and fats intravenously through a central line that goes in a vein above her heart. But Lily keeps getting infections from that central line and has become septic at least 3 times. Long COVID still remains a very big medical mystery. This population of patients really needs help, but right now there's really no guidance on what we can do to make these issues better. So there's no alternative treatment. There's not even any clinical trials. Funding for long COVID clinical trials has lagged because of the lack of a defined condition, has made it difficult to narrow down which patients should participate in the research. There are many potential treatment options, but they're not proven. Let me share this. Yount said, And insurance companies aren't going to pay for treatments that aren't proven, meaning patients have to pay out of pocket to try therapies that could cost thousands of dollars without knowing if they'll work. Lily, her family, and doctors wanted to try treating her with Regeneron's monoclonal antibody therapy. This is after 2 years of everything the hospital is doing.
Just let us try the monoclonal antibodies, please.
She responded well to monoclonal antibody treatment previously, and each time Lily has gotten a COVID-19 vaccination, she has a period where her condition improves for a couple of weeks. Is that because?
In other words, because of because you know how the vaccines give you antibodies initially and they wear off, so like it gets better for a little while and it goes away. Yeah, and I guess the monoclonal antibodies are just giving you antibodies directly, right?
Yeah. So it seems like the monoclonal antibody treatment helped her after.
However, blah 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 blah. They don't know if it would even help, but why not try? Because of at this point, she has such serious complications. We got to try everything, basically.
Yeah, well, let's not skim over that part. Let's not skim over that part because they tried everything. When you're going to, they did everything.
She's had like 5 days out of the hospital since 2020 or some shit, or 5 weeks.
Yeah, yeah, okay. And she does try monoclonal antibodies, and her family say that they work. And the hospital, it says here, the medical team treating Lily doesn't know if monoclonal antibodies would even help, even after it's the only thing that has helped. These fucking gentrified college degree fucks will still stand there and tell somebody that's been in the hospital for 2 years nothing they did worked, but monoclonal antibodies did, and they'll still stand there and have the gall to say we don't even know if that's gonna work. Go fuck yourself. And they don't even have clinical trials started to test for any alternative treatment other than what the hospital's giving.
I know, but don't go too hard on the medical team, because Apple, which is the person, which is on the medical team, that's the doctor, right? Appel. However, read the next line. However, subjectively, given there are no other good options, wouldn't it be wonderful if it helped even a little bit? And we do not feel it would be harmful to her at this point compared to all of the serious complications she has had. So they're saying, look, we don't know if this is going to necessarily resolve the problem, but why don't we try it? So she's advocating for let's try monoclonal antibodies.
I won't be hard on.
But no, I'm just saying, like, represent it accurately, you know. So they're yeah, you're right. Like, it did work for them in the past, but why not? The doctor is saying, why not try it again if it worked in the past for us? But they're being dicks about it. So this is what annoyed me, this whole next part of the article. But it's very difficult to access the therapy, which targeted an earlier variant of the virus, because the emergency use authorization issued by the FDA has expired. So, and Rogan made this point on his podcast too, and he's right. You're fucking saying, look, we won't give you access to monoclonal antibodies because the emergency use authorization expired because it was based on the first variant of the virus. Well, what the fuck is the vaccine based on that you're giving everybody? It's based on they didn't base it off Omicron. They're basing the vaccine you and I got, right? The Pfizer and the whatever the Moderna, those were based off of the original whatever alpha variant of the virus. So it doesn't make sense to me that you would continue use of one therapy, the vaccine, and then deny use of the other therapy, both of which were initially started to be used because of the emergency use authorization by the FDA. I don't know. It's ridiculous. They tried 2 compassionate use requests for the company to allow therapy, but both were denied.
Compassionate use requests, and they still can't get something that only thing that's helped her has been monoclonal antibodies. We're begging you,
please, for our child, let us do this. But it's fucking depressing, man. Yeah, although at the very end of the article, it says she got out on Tuesday, and this was written September 11th. So let's hope this little girl is able to stay out of the hospital.
Yeah, I mean, it's just crazy that
5 weeks in 2 years. She's been out of the hospital only 5 weeks in 2 years.
Crazy, dude. And can't get any clinical trials or funding to try alternative therapies
at 18 years old. Yes.
So crazy, dude. It's obvious that something's going on in the medical world.
The biggest reason why they won't do clinical trials or studies is because they can't agree on what long COVID is. You know, they can't agree on a definition of it.
That's so crazy,
and
dude.
nail it down. So these poor people
crazy.
that have it, they're kind of just fucked at this point. All from a virus that China let out of a lab, Dylan. Had an old man yelling at me about, not at me, but to me about this at work today.
I bet that was fun.
Oh, it's always you get some crazy ass people.
I mean, how did the conversation even get there?
Something about, are these made in China? Talking about the electronics, you know. I'm like, yeah, that's where everything's made. And then he starts going, well, that's, you know, a national security risk. We know, I think this whole COVID thing was a bioweapon attack. I'm like, he just went right into it, just like that. Just like that. It's a normal conversation, goes from normal conversation to China deployed a bioweapon attack in like less than a minute.
Wow.
He was kind of a crazy person. So, not that he's totally wrong, but he's probably a little bit wrong.
Yeah. Sorry, I was looking to see.
Yeah, you seem distracted. You're not listening to what I'm saying at all.
I was listening.
Not really.
But I was trying to see if we had any more articles to cover. And I think that was it.
That was it. That was it. And in the nick of time, we got 6 minutes left before the man tries to shut us down here.
Yeah, man. Hey, PlayStation streams. You got to upgrade to the next level of PS Plus, PS Premium, or whatever the next one is.
I'm not doing that, but okay.
It's $4.50 more. It's $4 more, dude.
Why do I have to do that?
Because you get better free games, and you can get Assassin's Creed is free right now, and it's multiplayer.
Assassin's Creed, what, Valhalla?
It's one of the older ones. Unity, Black Flag, one of the older ones. I downloaded 3 of them.
I got the fucking Valhalla, bro. Get with it, and we can play that one together.
All right, well, dude, you should just upgrade your $4.50. Upgrade to the next one. You can get much better games for free, and we can have more options to stream.
Okay,
just throwing it out there.
I'm gonna look into it.
Kingdoms of Amalur: Re-Reckoning is awesome, dude. I've been playing it way too much lately. It's like Skyrim, but it's awesome.
Okay, I'll check that out too.
The leveling system, the combat system, all kind of different weapons.
I'm on that Elden Ring kick right now. I told you.
Okay, I need to check it out. Elden Ring.
Just go look up some YouTube videos of Elden Ring. It's incredible. It's just a very beautifully done game. Like the environments are different. They're cool.
It's open world. I remember reading about that.
Yeah, it's open world. It's hard as fuck, but it's fun.
Oh, it looks
once you get the hang of it,
it looks a lot like Skyrim.
Better, way better. I don't know.
Really?
It's different. It's
so
not as much
world,
looting and shit. Yeah, it's open world.
I'm watching it right now. Holy mackerel, dude. It looks good, boy.
It's fun. Especially once you get to the higher levels and you start to be able to really fucking kick ass.
Dude, this game looks awesome.
It is awesome. I mean, it's probably going to win Game of the Year.
Really?
Yeah. It's in contender for it for sure.
It's got to be made by the people who made the Elder Scrolls. This has got to be the
No,
next
it's
one,
not.
Right?
This is from a company. Dude, the Dark Souls empire is huge, and this is from that company. That company's called From Software. That's the studio that makes this.
Oh, dude, this game.
Bethesda is who makes Skyrim. Bethesda makes Skyrim and Fallout.
Okay, gotcha.
But yeah, this is From Software. Very good game. We could do a fucking gaming podcast, bro. Just talk about gaming storylines.
Dude, I'd be down, man. It's a whole other channel, but
yeah, it's totally different. But yeah, I could do that.
It's a whole other channel of yeah, for sure.
But yeah, Elden Ring's the shit. Also, I want to replay Horizon Zero Dawn. Check that so I can play the new one. It's supposed to be really good. Forbidden West or whatever. I remember Horizon Zero Dawn having a cool storyline about that's open world as well.
Okay.
But it had a cool storyline about the end of humanity and then you know, I guess these tribes coming back together like after there's this catastrophe on Earth and there's these tribes that are just like trying to survive with like bows and arrows and shit. But there's machines left over from the old world that you're battling. It's kind of interesting.
Okay. Horizon Zero Dawn, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
That one might be free even Go check that out.
I'm kind of backed up on games. I haven't played.
Yeah, me too.
Assassin's Creeds. I got to catch up on those. The God of Wars. You know,
I'm bad about I'll start a game and play like hours into it and then stopping, like just quitting.
That's what I did with. That's what I did with Kingdoms of Amular on my birthday. I played something and I was like, "This is fun," and then I stopped, but I got back into it, and then like I crossed over. I was like, "Holy shit, this game is tight."
Yeah, I have to check it. I have to check that one out. But I'm bad about that with games because I have too much backlog like you.
Yeah, it's hack and slash. You press circle and you can melee and jump out the way instead. So it's like that. All right.
That's
anyway.
cool.
All right. Well, let's game sometime, and I'll take your stream if you just upload your Twitch to our Google Drive or something.
Yeah, we could do that. We could do that. And I think I have my own channel as well. I just it's a pain in the ass for me to log out of Golgothans and log into mine on my PlayStation. So if we could do it on Tuesday night, that'd be ideal. That way.
Yeah, because you're already doing
it. 2-for-1 for me, you know.
Yeah, exactly. But we got to play what y'all are deciding to play.
Yeah, I have a group of people that like to jump in with me on Tuesdays.
Yeah.
So if you download like Fall Guys or something like that, which should be free.
I had it for a little while. I played that online. I'm over it. Fall Guys.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, I want to try. Borderlands. Assassin's Creed. Games that are fucking. That's why the PS Plus thing is good because we can download new games and try them for like every new episode.
Well, we'll figure it out for this week. I know this thing's about to shut us off. So, all right, y'all. See y'all next week.
Bye. Listen to our band, Death of Skepsis.
Later, y'all.
Bye.
Later, bro.